don't think that, well, I know this. The legislature hasn't gotten a raise since 1998.
Holy mackerel, that's 10 years, 11
More
years.
than that.
Yeah.
So the state legislature has not gotten a raise, and actually the staffing budget has gone down. But I agree with you. I think that they have to find more savings. And one of the things that they should do, I just tell this story because it just exemplifies what's going on. And this story, by the way, isn't going to solve the state's shortfall, but I think these are examples of what needs to happen. I was on the other end of my district in Livingston County a few months ago, and I was talking to a corrections officer who's a volunteer firefighter. I was at a banquet, and he said he was the cook in one of the facilities up there. And he said, I have an idea that would save the state over $300,000 a year. And I said, great, what is it? And he said, you know, I figured it out across the system. If we just substituted 2 slices of white bread for hamburger and hot dog rolls, we would save over $300,000.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that amazing?
It's like the olives on the airline, you know, if they took the olives out
Yeah.
from something, they saved $30 billion or something.
Exactly. So I said, that's a great idea. When I was growing up, when I was a kid on the farm, we had white bread. We didn't always have hamburger and hot dog rolls. And I said, did you tell one of your supervisors? And he said, yes, and I was shot down. And I just think that's terrible. We should be looking for every single type of savings that we can find in state government.
That makes sense. That's a little thing, but
it's a little
it adds
thing,
up.
but they add up. And I think that one of the things that you mentioned the contracts for the state workers, that actually is negotiated by the governor. The state legislature is not allowed by law to get involved in that. I know the governor has ordered about $500 million in cuts to the state agencies. But one of your concerns, I think, that I agree with too, is the fact that the governor's talking about cutting education and health care. And if you cut education mid-year, especially with the schools, you create havoc. They actually did it in the state before I was in the legislature in 91, 92. And my concern is you don't want to do things that are going to drive up local property taxes again. So you have to be careful about what you do. The Senate Republicans actually have put out a plan that would cut about $3 billion from the budget, but it would do it in a different way so that you would have savings. And it's everything from not buying more recreational lands. That would save $80 million right off the top. They want to buy more recreational lands in the Adirondacks when the state owns almost all that already.
It owns it all. It's the biggest park in the world.
Right, exactly.
Or in the United States, I believe.
It is.
Second biggest.
Second biggest, I think.
Now, yeah, I did want to, you know, you can take 2 slices of bread and you crease them, and it makes a perfect hot dog roll.
It does.
You know?
It does.
As Dirksen said, you know, about saving, you mentioned saving a little here, a little there. You used to say, you know, a dollar here, a billion there, and it's real money before you know it.
Exactly. So you have to look for those. And Medicaid fraud and waste is still a big issue. It's still,
Medicaid.
it's still a problem.
But, you know, Medicaid at this point is becoming, the insurer of last resort. So many people are going on Medicaid because their employers don't provide insurance anymore. When you get sick, what do?
Right.
And you know, it costs $12,000 minimum to insure a family.
But you know what bothers me is that the governor in the budget has actually rolled back some of the Medicaid
Really?
and welfare checks and balances. For example, he's pushed very hard to get rid of face-to-face interviews and fingerprinting, which prior to when those were put into place in the 90s, there were some people collecting 4 or 5 welfare checks. They just have a different address in different towns.
That's what we have a czar here for in Chautauqua County. We have a Medicaid
to uncover
czar.
that
To look
fraud.
at that
right.
stuff. Yeah. We got a couple more calls. Thank you, caller.
Thank you.
Thank you. I hope that answered your question.
I have one more statement I'd
Quickie.
like to make.
Go ahead.
You know, she talks about waste. You go down any highway, this is just a perfect example of government waste. You go down the New York State Thruway on 90 or 86, they've got all these signs, even Route 76 between Ripley and Sherman. All these signs like tributary of 20 Mile Gulf. List roads that you can't even get onto on the bridges. How much waste is just done in these signs along the highway?
Partner, that's a good point. One of the biggest wastes is, and they have zillions of these signs, deer crossing.
Right.
Have you ever stopped or slowed down when you saw a deer crossing sign? No. And what do you care? I mean, the deer is either going to be in front of you or not. So they spent $500 million on deer crossing signs.
I think all those things should be reviewed. You know, I've never had to vote on any of those signs, but you know, one of the things that they did do that I thought was a waste, and they pulled back from it. They were manufacturing all these signs of, you know, with stimulus money about $1 million saying this is a stimulus project. Forget all that.
Yeah, who
Put
cares,
the money
right?
into the
Now
infrastructure.
put the
Really?
dough in. Well, thank
Yes.
you, caller. Good
Thank
point
you.
about
No
all those
problem.
dumb
I
signs.
hope she looks at some of this stuff, like the signs.
Yeah,
or,
the dumb signs.
Everybody would like a brick facade on their house, but if you can't afford it, you don't have it.
Right.
Economize on what you're doing. You can do something about it as far as expenses, like everybody else.
And forget
Yeah.
about the deer crossing signs,
have
because the
to
deer
use
never
common
pay any
sense.
attention at all to them.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
who cares what roads crossing the thruway that you can't get to?
Thanks,
Okay, well,
caller.
thank you very much.
Good.
By the
So
way,
we're-
I have gotten 3 deer the wrong way.
Oh, really?
in my
This year?
car. No, not this year. Not good.
I got one, knock on wood, but I didn't hurt him. Her, it was a doe, and she went head over teacups and ran off into the field like crazy and did no damage to the front of my car. But
Oh, my
I
gosh.
drive very slowly, and so I managed to break it. I just bumped her a little bit. Caller, we got lots of callers. Good morning, caller. Thank you for waiting. I hope you're still there.
I'm still here.
Okay, great. What's up?
The question I have is based on education.
Uh-huh.
I'm currently a freshman in college, and at JCC. I was just looking here at the bill, and I see that I did get federal money to help pay for college, but I didn't get any state money, and I was just wondering what the Senate wants to do to help students, because I know it wasn't necessarily the tuition that was a problem for me. It was the books. We paid almost $1,000 in books.
Yeah, there is a bill that I co-sponsor, the Textbook Act, that would actually help people with their textbooks if they had some kind of financial need. And I think that is a major cost. I can't believe what textbooks cost now. What, for example, could you tell me, like, what's an average textbook that you had to buy? How much did that cost?
Around 150, but I know my chemistry one was 205 or something like that.
It's just outrageous. I don't, and it just seems like a monopoly to me that I can't imagine that it costs that much to manufacture
College.
those books.
College professors.
It really is.
They update them every year.
Yeah,
They change
so
the sentence.
they change a sentence, but and so that's a racket, I think.
It's a racket.
It's a racket. So there is some legislation that's been proposed out there. And have you ever looked into the tuition assistance program through the state?
No,
It's called TAP. We call it TAP for short, but it's Tuition Assistance Program.
Oh, yeah, I
And-
believe maybe I did file for that, but didn't get anything.
Oh, okay. Well, it is, again, it's based on financial need, and there's a formula, which I can't tell you today, unfortunately, but there is a formula, and it allows a lot of people who otherwise wouldn't be able to afford a college education to get that. But I want to congratulate you for going to school. I think that's great. I was just at a literacy program yesterday in Allegheny County, and we're talking about the fact that as people become more educated, then we have the qualified workforce that we need to get out of this recession, and it reduces government costs, increase our tax base. So it's really important that people are focusing on their careers, and I think that's great that you're doing that. What do you want to become?
A chemistry teacher.
Oh, that's fantastic, because as you know, we have lots of teachers, but in a lot of the sciences and the math areas, we don't have enough. So I think that's
It's
fantastic.
terrific. Yeah. I partner
I
on the
just
phone.
I want to leave you with one final question.
Yeah, you're
that
on.
is- or suggestion is about the textbooks is trying to stop that monopoly, because I know some of the textbooks, they say they're required, but I haven't even used them one bit. So
I remember that even
I
when
just
I was
thought
in
I'd let you
school,
leave you with that.
which was 100 years ago.
Right, me too, and I never bought one. I never bought one. I just attended classes, and I didn't have the money. We were desperately poverty stricken. I managed to squeeze in. Never bought a textbook. And they were just as expensive in those terms, and it was a racket. The professors make sure that each one makes one of their buddies' book a necessity for their course, and that buddy writes a book and charges $1 million for it. They say they upgrade them every year by changing a sentence or two, so you can't use the old book, of course, now. Not seeing this. Thank you, caller. I did want to mention the fact that I, too, wanted to be a chemistry major, and I went to the University of Pittsburgh as a chem major for 2 years. At which
Really?
at a point I was thrown out of college, and I went to Fredonia. Good morning, everybody out there. We're taking calls. Nancy, I want to say that we have an awful lot of stuff to talk about here. And we're with Cathy Young, who's our you would be our United States Senator. I think you'd do a better job than the one who currently is there. In the meantime, she is our state senator, many years, and also many years in the legislature, too. So you know both arms there, don't you?
That's
The
right. I was in the Assembly.
and the Senate. Yeah.
I was elected to the Assembly in 1998 and served, and then, the Assembly is in many ways just like the Senate, except you represent less people. In the Assembly, you represent about 130,000 people. In my Senate district, I have about 300,000
Just
people.
the Congress, you should run for Congress, I'm telling you. The one